All right. Good morning. Welcome to our November 24th Best Practice webinar. I am pleased to have Will Fetz, the Executive Director of the Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation, who will be presenting to us today. I would encourage you to unmute yourself and ask questions. Will have kind of some natural pauses built into the presentation today, so you are welcome to do that. You're also welcome to use the chat box if you would prefer to use that instead. This is being recorded and will be made available on our website after the presentation today. Usually takes a little bit to get that video downloaded and uploaded to our YouTube channel, so a little bit of patience there, but you will be able to have that back to reference for your future if you have some questions involved. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Will. So thanks.
Thanks, Crystal. Good morning, everyone. As she said, my name is Will Fett, and I'm with the Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation. I am a former classroom teacher, but my new role has me working with teachers and students in both formal and informal settings. And so what I was hoping to do today is share with you some of a couple of hands-on activities that you could use in after-school programs. I'm going to be presenting some of the information that you might that might be more applicable to a formal classroom setting, but I'm going to try and pull out the pieces that are ideal for informal learning too, so you can apply them in whatever situation works best for you. I'm going to be sharing my screen and walking you through a couple of web pages on our website, but then I'm going to be demonstrating a couple of hands-on activities. When I get to the demonstration part, I would encourage you to change your view to speaker view, or go ahead and pin my video so that you have a nice big picture and are able to see what I'm showing you. So first off, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here and walk you through the resources that I'm gonna be presenting. So all of the resources that I'm gonna share today are found on our website, iowaagliteracy.org. And today specifically, I'm going to focus on soybeans and separately lavender. We find that soybeans are a great way to reinforce science concepts in a very fun, hands-on way. And the materials that I'm showing you today can be scaled up or down. So we have a kindergarten through second, like a lower grade lesson plan, grade 3 through 5 lesson plan, and then you can scale those up to middle school and high school just by including more science concepts. And again, what I'm showing you is laid out in lesson plan format for a formal classroom teacher, but the hands-on activities included in the lesson plan are what are really ideal for informal learning. So the soybean life cycle model here is our lower grade lesson plan, and then separately a soybean life cycle sequencing. So with the lower grades, what I would do is demonstrate the different stages of the soybean life cycle. For a little bit more advanced, I would challenge the students to put them in order so that they can start sequencing the different stages of the soybean life cycle. And for upper grades, middle school and high school, I can start to bring in more vocabulary. I can start to do some pre-tests and post-tests, just give them the information and see how they do with the life cycle, and then reinforce those concepts. So again, this is a really good activity to scale up and down. So first off, let's go ahead and walk through the soybean life cycle. And this is where you might want to pin my view or make it larger so that you can see. Soybean life cycle starts with the seed. And the seed is going to contain all of the nutrients that you will need to get the plant to germinate. All of those nutrients are included inside the seed. The first step will be to water it, and you get a nice little root. So this root, the radicle, is going to shoot down into the ground. And it kind of doesn't matter which way the soybean is set in the ground, but but the root will always start to, even if it comes out of the top, it'll kind of come up and over and start growing down. So the root always knows which way is down and is going to start to find the water that it needs to continue to germinate. Everything inside that soybean is the nutrients that's that the plant needs to start to germinate. The first thing that comes out after the root are the two little cotyledons. And these are the first two leaves. So we can start to talk about how soybeans are dicots. Dicots means two leaves, monocots means one leaf. The example that we use for monocots is corn. So it has one leaf to start, and soybeans will have two. Two leaves because if you look at that seed, it splits in half, and each half of the seed, I should turn my background off here. Each side of the seed is one of those leaves. So after the cotyledons form, we're going to have more and more fibrous roots that start to form, and the soybean is going to start to grow. It's going to grow into a plant with branches. Each branch is going to have multiple leaves. Soybeans are a trifoliate, which means they have 3 leaves. And bear with me, I'm going to turn my background off. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have turned that on. If I can figure out. No, sorry, I can't access that menu right now. So the plant is going to start to grow more and more leaves, and then the next piece is going to form a flower. Now, most soybean flowers are purple or white or pinkish, just like your garden peas. Purple is probably the most common color, but it's not not usually quite this rich of a purple. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit smaller. And these flowers are tucked in kind of near the stem. They're in between the leaves and the stem, and so they're going to be pretty small and tucked in right near the stem of the plant. That actually allows for the structure of the plant to support the weight of the soybeans. Now, the flowers do need to be pollinated, but they don't need a pollinator. And so this is a good opportunity to talk about other aspects of agriculture that we talk about, like pollinators. Many crops do need pollinators, but soybeans are self-pollinating. They don't need a pollinator they don't need an insect or a bat or a bird to come by and pollinate them. They are self-pollinated. So these little flowers, the pollen is all tucked inside, and there is no need for an external force to pollinate. Once the flower is pollinated, though, it will start to form a pod, and inside that pod is where the seeds, the beans, are going to start to develop. Now, those beans, there might be 3, there might be 4, there could be as many as 5, but that's pretty unusual. And this is one of the things that we consider when we talk about increasing agricultural yield, is how many beans are in that pod. And if we can get more beans in the pod, that's going to increase our total yield for the field. So we want these pods to be really healthy. The little pod is going to grow into a bigger pod, and that bigger pod is going to have the maturing beans. And at this point, you could harvest it, and this is where we get edamame. So edamame is the green soybean. It's the exact same soybean that is out in the field, but most Americans don't eat the green soybean, and at least not in bulk. So what we do with soybeans is let them dry out in the field. And we want that pod to turn brown. It's going to dry to a moisture content of about about 14%. You want it to be dry so that it will store nicely in grain bins and not crack. But you don't want it to be too dry because it will crack, or the beans will fall apart. So we want it to dry and not mold or decompose, but we don't want it to be too dry. It's kind of a touchy issue. So if I was doing this with a younger audience, I would kind of lay it out just like that, step by step, and show them the sequence. I could even attach them with strings and lay it out on a wall. They could pull them all together. They could reorganize them and try and, kind of unscramble them after I've done the demonstration. And all of this is laid out in the hands-on lesson that I showed you. And let me get back to that. So the step-by-step is found here, and you could do this ahead of time, cutting out all the materials. You can attach the string, or you can make this a hands-on group activity. So we have each one of the individual component pieces that you can print out and have the students cut and talk about the different stages of the life of the soybean and build the model themselves. So this can be a demonstration, or it can be a hands-on activity where the students are actually building the model. So we've got all of the pieces laid out, and all you have to do is print them out on the appropriate color paper, or have the students color them and cut them out and build the actual model. The soybean life cycle sequencing, which is a slightly higher grade level that I mentioned, is going to allow the students to use sorting cards to determine what that sequence is without that information being front loaded. So you give them the sequence cards and have the students figure out how to best or how to construct the soybean life cycle. Then you can go back and talk about the individual segments of the life cycle, which, even if you don't know, we have it all laid out. So this background content is set up in a way that everything that you would need to know about the seed is laid out for you. Everything you need to know about the germination process is laid out for you. The individual seedling, the growing plant, the flowering, the pod, and ultimately the mature pod that is harvested. So that's a great demonstration hands-on activity that students can do themselves, or that you as an instructor can demonstrate. Let me stop there and see if there are any questions that I can answer.
Yeah, so again, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions, or you can drop those into the chat. And Will, right now, there's nothing in our chat box.
So with every hands-on activity, we do want to reinforce and support literacy as well. So this particular activity is related to our My Family's Soybean Farm book. And again, free and available on our website currently. However, it is going under some revisions. So this exact version won't be available after December, but a different version will be. So this is our My Family Soybean Farm book, follows two young Iowans live on a farm and talks about their family farm that is growing soybeans. It's a great example of how agriculture is an important part of the Iowa economy, and how the Iowa economy is so interconnected throughout the world. So I'm going to skip ahead through the book and just kind of give you a preview. But one of the things that we call out in the book is global trade, how Iowa soybeans can go abroad and can go to places like China or other parts of Asia. So it's a great opportunity to get the students to start thinking globally, and maybe this leads into another activity where they map out where Iowa soybeans go. and what they're being used for, like feed for animals or biodiesel. Really a lot of different things that soybeans can be utilized for. So so that book and other My Family Farm books are available on our website. You can click through the digital versions with students, or if you are doing a lesson on a specific agricultural commodity, dairy, eggs, turkey, we will provide hard copies of those books for free upon request. You just need to send us an email and let us know how many students you're working with and which book that you're interested in. Other questions on soybeans or that activity? All right, moving on. So one of the things that soybeans can be used for are cosmetic and industrial processes. So I mentioned biodiesel. The soybean, the oil from soybeans can be turned into a lot of different industrial products, and it can also be used to make things like wax for cosmetics. So to bridge from soybeans to lavender, we have essential lessons on lavender lesson plan. Now, this lesson plan is targeted for middle school students, but again, the hands-on component would be great for informal learners, after-school programs, and you can bridge in some of those learning elements. We do have a couple of other lavender lessons for different grades, lower grades, and even high school lessons. So the activity that I'm going to show you can be elementary, middle school, high school, and pick the lesson that makes the most sense if you want to try and weave in some of those concepts. So the essential lessons on lavender has an activity where you can actually make your own lip balm, lavender lip balm. And I drew my own little label here. And this activity can start with soy wax. Now, these little pellets are available online. They're just little wax pellets. And then I, with a recipe, mix it with some coconut oil, mix it with some shea butter, and because these are currently solid, I would want to warm them up. You can use a crock pot. You can, if you have access to a stove and a burner, a double boiler works really well. But once I mix all of these together, what I want to do is just put in a little bit of essence, some lavender essence, just a couple of drops because it can go a long way. And I'm just going to stir that around. I'm going to mix it all up and going to use a pipette and pipe it into the little chapstick containers. So once I've mixed it all together, and it doesn't take very long, 5-10 minutes, just depending on your heat source, you can pipe it into the little chapstick containers. Now the key here is to let it cool completely before you put that lid on. Any little water molecules, you want to let them evaporate. You don't want to let them get mixed into the chapstick, otherwise it's not going to be a very good consistency. So you let it cool completely. Now that part does take a little bit longer, an hour or so. You can pop it into the refrigerator if you want to speed it up. But this becomes a really quick hands-on activity that you can demonstrate the use of soy, the use of a specialty crop that is grown here in Iowa, like lavender, and the product that the students can immediately use or take home and share it with a little gift for family and friends. So a really quick, easy activity that demonstrates how we can use Iowa products like soybeans into wax, into a finished product like lip balm. Now, where do you get all of these materials? Nothing about this is special. You can get the chapstick containers online. You can get the soy wax online. You can get the shea butter and coconut oil online. But we have tried to make it easy. So built into the lesson plan that I just shared with you is this link to the full kit. So the kit is available on agclassroomstore.com. And we have the full kit with all of the materials that you would need set up, ready to go, so that you could do this activity with students immediately. We want to make it easy for you to integrate agriculture, and we think it makes sense to integrate agriculture because it reinforces literacy with the books. It reinforces science concepts with the whole life cycle and raising plants and animals. And it reinforces even economic and social studies concepts with the idea of creating an end product that might get sold. So we really think it makes a lot of sense, and we want to make it as easy as possible for you to integrate agriculture on a regular basis. So everything that you would need for the soybean activity is provided. You just print out the templates and you can do the activity. If you choose to do the lip balm kit, it's the kit is set up for you if you choose to purchase it, but all of the materials are easily and readily available as well. Before I give one more set of activities and resources, what questions do you have? What questions can I answer? And I see a couple people, Brittany and Crystal, have both tried the lip balm. It's fun, it's easy. You don't have to use lavender. You can use a lot of other flavorings, but because we do grow lavender here in Iowa, a little bit of it, I always think it's fun to connect it back to Iowa products.
How many lip balms does the kit make, Matt or Will?
The kit comes with, it depends on how full you fill them. So the kit comes with 50 individual containers, but it could make, depending on how many ingredients you put in and how full you fill them, anywhere between 48 and 60 individual lip balm containers. So you could do a lot of students, and even if you have a small group, the one kit could last you a couple of years if you did it a couple of times.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Will? Okay.
All right, so I've shown you two hands-on activities that you could easily just grab and go. All of our resources are intended to be kind of off the shelf, that grab and go. You don't have to think about it too hard. You don't have to work too hard to tailor it, but they are all tailorable. You can scale them up, scale them down. The last thing that I want to share with you is another set of resources. On our website, if you navigate to resources, other, and find links and downloads, one of the downloads that we offer is this Agriculture on the Go book. So we have the digital version available. You can easily print it out. And this Agriculture on the Go book are those quick activities that you can engage with. Most of them are 5, 10, maybe 20-minute activities that you can implement, would be really ideal for an after-school program, informal learning setting. So the activities that are included in this book: corn face painting, using cornstarch to create face paint. Cornstarch will carry color. You just mix it with a little bit of milk or a little bit, even just a little bit of water, and you can create some face paint. We have and all of the steps and activities are laid out for you. We have an activity we call cover crop monsters. You might have seen these on Pinterest, where you just grow little grass heads. But what's the learning behind that? We want to connect it to conservation here in Iowa. So talking about how the roots hold soil in place and how cover crops are a way to add nutrients to soil, how we utilize the soil in the winter months, even when we're not growing our corn and soybeans. There's a lot of sustainability things that we can pull out with this activity. Another soybean activity, mighty soybeans. How strong is a soybean? So plant soybeans in plaster of Paris. Ultimately, the soybeans are not going to live in plaster of Paris, but the plaster of Paris dries so quickly that you will see how strong the soybean is, and the soybean will actually break the plaster of Paris. And you can talk about how soybeans, even in very, very tough soil conditions, will germinate, will survive. We have another activity we call pork feed rations. So you've probably seen mixing of different ingredients for little snack kits. What's the learning and how do we tie it to agriculture? Again, talking about what pigs might need to have a healthy, balanced diet. We can talk about carbohydrates, we can talk about protein, we can talk about fats, we can talk about vitamins and minerals, and we have different ingredients that represent those components in a healthy pig's feed ration. Scale it up and scale it down. For lower grades, I might just talk about what each of those components represents. For upper elementary, I'd actually have the students weigh it out, because we don't just want to throw in a bunch of fat into the pig's diet. They do need fat, but it's a very specific amount. So you can weigh out those individual component measurements. Seed germination necklaces. This is always a hit with students. We use Orbeez, the colored water beads that you can buy at 2,000 for $5 on Amazon. Soak them in water overnight. They provide all the water that the seeds need to germinate, and then place them in little bags. We always try to represent both corn and soybeans, because soybeans are that dicot and corn is the monocot. We can talk a lot of science with a very, very simple activity. And then the kids wear them around their neck, where we talk about how seeds need ideal temperatures, and your body temperature will provide a little bit of warmth to allow those seeds to germinate and grow. So they create little necklaces. Soil dirt cups is a great way of talking about how soil has different layers and components to it. Again, ends up with a nice little snack. And I know in current times, we may not be able to do food activities, but if there is a way to individually portion or have the students do their own and follow a proper safety protocol, ends up being a really fun activity for students. Apple Earth, another great activity, talks about the fragility of the earth. So if we look at an apple, of that apple, a tiny, tiny sliver, 1/32 of that apple represents the soil that we can actually grow food on. So we talk about how 3/4 of the apple, 3/4 of the globe is water. We talk about how of that 1/4, there are ice caps and deserts and cities, places that we can't grow food. And it ends up being 1/32, one tiny, tiny sliver of that apple is where we can actually grow food, and how important it is to conserve those natural resources. Another fun activity, this one is tied with our My Family's Beef Farm book, is dress up a cow using readily available materials around the house, like fly swatters, plastic dish gloves, balloons. A great way to dress up a cow and talk about the different anatomy components. So the balloons you can kind of see in the picture are the cow's stomach. And so we have 4 different compartments of the cow's stomach represented by those balloons. The fly swatter is the cow's tail and talks about how the tail will keep bugs away. Another fun activity, Many Hats of the Iowa Farmer, and this book and all of the activities are available for you to kind of peruse and pick which ones make the most sense for you, and which ones are ideal for whatever sequence of learning that you are trying to build into your after-school programs. Again, I'll go ahead and stop there and open it up for questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas.
Again, don't be shy. Go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can use the chat if that's a better option for you today. All right. Well, we simply have a comment from Barb. She says, this is great information. And is this all on your website?
It is all on our website, and I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat. So please, there's way more than I showed you today. If you do need anything, reach out, let us know. I will drop the email address in the chat as well. If you are interested in collecting any or requesting any books or need any other resources, please reach out and let us know.
Okay. So I think that answers Jennifer's question about, do we email you about the books for the lessons? So please use that info@iowaagliteracy.org email to do that. And then we do have a question. What advice do you have, Will, for leading these ag activities if the program provider doesn't have much background knowledge on the topic?
Great question. So we have tried to provide that background information in each one of the individual lesson plans. So hopefully just by reading that, you will have enough base knowledge to be able to conduct the lesson. Now, no matter what the specific topic is, the hesitancy of not knowing more than your students is always one of those scary things. Don't be scared. Learn with the students. We've tried to provide you enough background information so that you can feel comfortable to conduct the activity, but there might be something that you can discover along the way and learn with the students. And for me, that ends up unfolding into potential research opportunities with the class. Well, I don't know. Let's look it up. I don't know. Let's figure it out together. So we don't want you to walk in scared and have tried to provide that information, but it is a great opportunity to learn and explore with students.
All right. Brittany says, great point. So, all right. Are there any other questions today? Okay. Will, is there anything that you have in closing for us?
Well, I just, again, wanted to say, feel free to reach out to us if you do need any help. We are more than happy to provide resources. A lot is on our website, so if you get lost in our website, feel free to reach out. And we are also willing to serve as guest speakers in current times. We'll do virtual as often as we can, but if things open up in the future and you want to invite in person. We also work with a network of Ag in the Classroom volunteers all across the state. There's currently about 66 individuals that represent a little bit more than 70 counties across Iowa. So not every school district might have a local coordinator, but many do, and we're happy to make those connections if you need a local resource as well. So please reach out to us and let us know how we can help.
Great, thank you so much. So, ladies and, well, I think we lost our only other gentleman here, but I want to thank you for your time today. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this recording will be made available on our website. That'll be iowa21cclc.com, and I'll send the link out when we're done as well. So if you need to reference this back, you'll have that ability to do so. With that being said, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody stays safe. Really looking forward to the month of December because we have to be positive about life right now. And don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Brittany, or Emily on the Iowa After School Alliance team if there's anything that we can help you to navigate as we continue moving forward. So thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.